Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Aviation History. In this video, we are going to talk about the Tenerife Airport disaster, the worst accident in aviation history that claimed 583 lives on March 27, 1977. We will explore how this tragedy happened, what were the main factors that contributed to it, and what lessons were learned from it. The two flights involved in the disaster were KLM Flight 4805 and Pan Am Flight 1736, both Boeing 747s, the largest and most advanced passenger aircraft at the time. KLM 4805 was flying from Amsterdam to Gran Canaria, a popular tourist destination in the Canary Islands, with 234 passengers and 14 crew members on board. Pan Am 1736 was flying from Los Angeles to Gran Canaria, with a stopover in New York, carrying 380 passengers and 16 crew members. Both flights were scheduled to arrive at Gran Canaria Airport on the afternoon of March 27th, but their plans were disrupted by a bomb threat at the airport. A terrorist group called the Canary Islands Independence Movement had planted a bomb in the terminal building, which exploded shortly before the arrival of the two flights, injuring several people and causing panic. The authorities closed the airport and started to search for more bombs, while diverting all incoming flights to Los Rodeos Airport on the nearby island of Tenerife. Los Rodeos Airport was a small regional airport that was not designed to handle such a large number of aircraft. The airport had only one runway and one taxiway, which ran parallel to each other. The taxiway was too narrow for the 747s, so they had to park on the apron, blocking the access to the taxiway for other planes. This meant that any aircraft that wanted to take off had to taxi along the runway, and then make a 180-degree turn at the end. The airport also had no ground radar, so the air traffic controllers had to rely on voice communication and visual observation to coordinate the movements of the planes. To make matters worse, a thick fog started to cover the airport, reducing visibility to less than 300 meters. After several hours of waiting, Gran Canaria Airport reopened and allowed the diverted flights to resume their journey. The KLM flight was the first to request clearance for takeoff, followed by the Pan Am flight. The air traffic controller instructed both flights to taxi along the runway and then exit at the third intersection, called C3, which was about halfway down the runway. However, due to the fog and some confusion over the radio communication, the Pan Am flight missed C3 and continued towards C4, which was further down the runway. Meanwhile, the KLM flight had reached the end of the runway and was ready to take off. The KLM captain asked for takeoff clearance from the controller, but he did not receive a clear confirmation. Instead, he heard a message from the Pan Am flight saying that they were still on the runway. The KLM captain misunderstood this message as an indication that the Pan Am flight had already cleared the runway, and decided to start his takeoff run without waiting for further confirmation from the controller. At this point, the two flights were heading towards each other on the igniting a massive fireball. The KLM flight continued to fly for a few seconds, then slammed into the ground and exploded. The impact and the resulting fire killed everyone on board the KLM flight and most of the occupants of the Pan Am flight, with only 61 survivors in the front section of the aircraft. The Tenerife Airport disaster was a shocking and a tragic event that shook the world of aviation. The rescue efforts were hampered by the fog, the fire, and the lack of equipment and personnel at the airport. It took several days to recover the bodies and the wreckage from the scene. The investigation by the Spanish authorities concluded that the primary cause of the accident was the KLM captain's decision to take off in the mistaken belief that a takeoff clearance from air traffic control had been issued. The Dutch investigators placed a greater emphasis on a mutual misunderstanding in radio communication between the KLM crew and air traffic control. But ultimately, KLM admitted that their crew was responsible for the accident, and the airline agreed to financially compensate the relatives of all of the victims. The disaster also led to several changes in aviation safety, such as the introduction of standardized phraseology for radio communication, the improvement of ground radar systems, and the promotion of crew resource management. The Tenerife Airport disaster was the worst accident in aviation history that claimed 583 lives on March 27, 1977. It was a result of a series of unfortunate events and human errors that could have been prevented with better communication, coordination, and situational awareness. The disaster also taught us valuable lessons that help to improve aviation safety and prevent similar tragedies from happening again. Thank you for watching this video, and if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more aviation history videos. See you next time.